Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar called Longer Lifetime for Products, a compelling case towards circularity. This webinar has been organized by the One Planet Network Consumer Information Program, United Nations Environment Program, and the French Ministry for Ecological Transition and Solidarity. Just for the audio settings, you are all on mute at the moment, so to have a better presentation and minimize background noises, but you can type in questions during the session and we will pick those up at the end to our discussion, and also we can unmute people at the end when we go into the discussion of the topic. For the agenda today, so we will start with the product lifetime extension concept and explaining why it is important. And how this overall strategy can promote circular economy as a concept. Then we will look into the optimal replacement moments for products and mention how stakeholders can contribute to product lifetime extension strategies and why the collaboration between the different stakeholders is so important to advance this concept. And then we will go into the examples by having insights from the French Ministry on their policies on product lifetime extension, and also a business perspective and business case from Brazil, the company Refazenda, who focus on upcycling of textiles and have a very successful business model built on that. And then at the end, we will have an open discussion. So please let us know your questions throughout the session, and we will discuss them at the end. In terms of speakers, we have 4 people on the panel today. So my name is Niels Hoyer and I work for a United Nations Environment Program. I will be moderating the session at the end and give the short introduction. Then Beatriz Martins-Canero, my colleague, will give the training session, so to speak, on the first 3 aspects of the agenda and explain the concept of product lifetime extension. And we have around half an hour scheduled for that. And then we have 10-minute inputs each from Sylvain Chevassus from the French Ministry for Ecological Transition and Solidarity on the government perspective and the French policies in particular. And then Marcos Queiroz from Refazenda giving his business case example and also insights on the challenges he thinks we have with introducing concepts of product lifetime extension. And before we start, just a quick overview also on the consumer information program of the One Planet Network. So basically, the One Planet Network is the implementation mechanism for Sustainable Development Goal 12 on responsible consumption and production. And in the consumer information program, which is one of the 6 programs, we have 3 co-leads, which are the Federal Ministry of Environment of Germany and also the Federal Ministry of Environment Forestry in Indonesia, and Consumers International, like a consumers' rights organization that operates globally. And we have a membership of 20 multi-stakeholder advisory committee members. One of them is also the French Ministry, represented by Sylvain, and then over 100 partner organizations, including Refazenda. And our main objectives are to support the provision of credible sustainability information on goods and services and develop effective strategies to engage consumers in sustainable consumption. We have various working groups and work streams on these objectives, and one of our main outputs were the guidelines for providing product sustainability information. We have also shared this resource with various national focal points, and we'll continue to do so. And we really encourage government actors to pick up these resources and use them in the national implementation. Then we have also a working group on type 1 eco-labels, mainly focusing on capacity building and awareness raising, but also implementation projects in various regions. And then a new work stream on plastics, mainly focusing on plastic packaging. And finally, the product lifetime extension work that is mainly led by United Nations Environment Program, but also supported by the Acatu Institute in Brazil. And we have some very good information hubs on these topics on our website. You can see the link there. Or you can also email ciscp@un.org if you have questions about the program or want to get involved or subscribe to our newsletter. You're welcome to contact us. But now I will hand over to Beatriz to give the presentation for today on product lifetime extension.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Niels, for this introduction. So I will, can you please go to the next slide? I will start with the learning objectives. This training material was developed with the support of the French Ministry, as Niels already mentioned, and also Acatu Institute, our partner in Brazil. And normally it's a much longer section, but today I will focus only on the policymaker part of the training material. So the learning objectives is to learn about product lifetime extension in overall promotion of circular economy or circularity, learn about optimal replacement moments for products, and understand how and why collaboration between industry, governments, consumers, and NGOs is important. And I will just briefly talk about this third point because I will not go deeper into this subject today. Next slide, please. So today we live in a linear economy system where we go from the extraction of raw materials and the final disposal of the products without without thinking, at least without mainstreaming the possibilities of those materials returning to the economic cycle. And what is the problem with this? Next slide, please. You can, yeah. So why? So the next one. So what is the problem with this? Is that the current linear economy model is reaching its physical and environmental limits. So I like this picture very much. At first, you cannot actually see what's happening there, but this is like a cell phone ocean. And it's very interesting, and because I think it reflects how unsustainable our current model is. And we have this, for example, the cell phones, but we have this in many other products. We can see those cell phones piling up, and the data that we have is that since 2007, 7 billion smartphones were produced. So as of today, we have more cell phones in the world than people. So how can we make this model work more sustainably? And product lifetime extension and value retention policies are one solution to increase circularity. Next slide, please. Now, this is just another way of saying what I just said, that the growing consumption and production makes pressure on natural resources and generates an immense amount of waste with which we actually don't have the means or to handle properly in some cases, which in this system requires a different approach, a more systemic approach, and this is the need for circular economy or circularity. The next slide, please. This I will just show you very quickly. This diagram represents UNEP's circularity approach, which was launched last week, I think, in the G7 meeting. So in here you can see that we go from the extraction to the disposal. Instead of going from the extraction to the disposal phase, we try to put in place new business models, business strategies to enhance reuse, remanufacture, repairing, and to keep the value of the products as much as possible in the economic cycle. Next slide, please. This work is totally aligned with Sustainable Development Goals and the Agenda 2030, especially Goal 12, where we talk about responsible consumption and production, which includes, for example, the decrease of waste by I think half in 2030. So I think that this is very well aligned with the SDGs. Next slide. Some definitions for the work we are doing here. So what circular economy is that to redefine growth focusing on positive society-wide benefits, and it takes place when the value of product is maintained for as long as possible in the economic cycle. Product lifetime, it starts at the moment of the product is released for use and ends at the moment of a product becomes obsolete. And product lifetime extension is the postponement or reversal of the obsolescence of a product through deliberate intervention. And planned obsolescence is the deliberate action by manufacturers and designers to shorten a product's lifetime in order to increase its replacement rate and at the expense of consumers. So those are the definitions that we used to develop this material that I am presenting today. Next slide. So we see product lifetime extension as a win-win situation because resources are saved and the waste is reduced. Innovation is incentivized, business opportunities are created, and we are going to hear a little bit about this today from our partner at Refazenda, our colleague at Refazenda. Costs are saved. Consumers get better value for money, and consumers are better informed. So, next slide, please. Just to give you a concrete example, product lifetime extension can offer substantial carbon savings. A very interesting study developed by the Green Alliance from the UK with 5 common household goods responsible for high carbon emissions, which are clothing, packaging, vehicles, appliances, and furniture, show that we have this amount of carbon that could be saved if we extend the life of products. So how do we know if products should be replaced or repaired? Next slide. You can click all the. So the optimal replacement moments vary for different product use and context. And so what is the optimal replacement moment is defined at the point in time where the environmental impacts that arise from using a product equals the embedded impacts of a more energy efficient replacement product. So use context may vary greatly across cultures, which impact the optimal replacement moment. Highly diverse user contexts and cultures impair generalization, so it's very hard to define an optimal momentum that is like it can be globally applied. Yeah, so this is the next slide, please. So with this work that we did, this report on the long view on product lifetime extension, we tried to use LCA models to define the optimal replacement moments. But as I mentioned, we saw that it's very hard to have a global answer for that. But just there are some important things to think about when we are talking about product lifetime extension. So we have 3 types of products. One is like disposable products that have an intrinsically short life. So it's fast-moving consumer goods. You buy, you use, and you either you finish with this or you throw it away. We have products that require no or minimal consumption of resources during use, such as, for example, furniture or non-electric tools. And we have the resource-intensive products during the use phase, which is the focus of this work that I'm presenting here today. Next slide. So we did this assessment of these products in the study that I mentioned. But today, in the interest of time, I'm going to mention only 3 of them: washing machines, TVs, and vacuum cleaners. So according to our studies and the LCA models that we have, the washing machine should be used at least 10 years before replacement. But the consumer use scenarios and use context vary greatly across cultures, and so it can impact this average amount of time before replacement, because the use phase contributes the most in the overall environmental impact of the problem of the product. So what could be done? Develop more LCA studies, life cycle assessment studies, that include a broader range of patterns to assess local context in the use of products, and promote sustainability use practices to help decrease the environmental impact of clothes washing. So here to actually inform the consumer of the more sustainable ways of using the product. The next one, please. TVs. TVs was a very interesting case for us in this study, because we tend to think that the new products are more energy efficient than the last generation. But we saw that in case of TVs, the new technology developments, so UHD, smart TVs, are increasing energy consumption compared to previous generations of LED TVs. Also, the display modes, the screen brightness, and the level. Also, here also the consumer habits are also very important, because the display modes, the screen brightness, and the level of room lighting can significantly affect the level of energy consumed or being used by the TV. So what could be done? Ensure that the energy consumption of new generations of TV does not trend to upward again through appropriate measures, policy measures, and also inform the consumer of better ways to use the TV, better and more sustainable ways of using TV. And finally, the vacuum cleaners. The studies found that the vacuum cleaners, they are often replaced before their lifespan, which should be about 5 years old. And so, and the reasons for that that we assessed is that consumers usually prefer to buy a new cheap vacuum cleaner than to try to repair or even clean the vacuum cleaner. So product lifetime extension is recommended in most cases of vacuum cleaners. What could be done? Special attention given to consumer education on how to actually use properly the vacuum cleaner and extend the lifetime. Stimulate better product design that makes it easier for the consumer to clean and sell and repair the product. And ensure that producers make repair easier and increase availability of spare parts. Next slide. So this is yes, there wasn't one before? Yeah, it's skipping, I don't know why. Okay, so this is in a nutshell what we talk. So when we're talking about fridges and washing machines, they should be used for at least 10 years before being replaced for a more energy efficient model. TVs, it makes sense to keep older LED models in use instead of replacing them with newer, less energy efficient models. And for the case of computers, cell phones, clothing, and vacuum cleaners, they are usually replaced much before their lifetime, their lifespan. So we encourage that they should be reused or used for longer to actually decrease the impacts of the product Next slide, please. Yeah, well, so this is a table with the average expected product lifetimes in Europe. The source is the European Parliament Committee on Internal Market and Consumer Protection of 2016. So the average lifetime for example, small electrical appliances, 1 to 2 years. Personal computers and some clothing is 3 to 4 years. Cameras, kitchenware, lighting is 5 to 6 years. Automotive TVs, kitchen appliances are 7 to 10 years. And appliances attached to the house, so such as boilers or sunroof, kitchen and bathroom furnishings, it's more than 10 years. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the problem is there, it's relevant, and sometimes it's difficult to tackle. So collaboration is key. The next slide. We cannot say that this, well, yeah, this is good. So for policymakers, because simply pointing towards one actor or another is very short-sighted. We need to have like a broader approach to engage different stakeholders in collaboration in order to tackle the problem of short product lifetime, or to extend product lifetime and decrease the impact on natural resources. So for policymakers to set, you can tap again, please, to set the enabling conditions for companies and consumers to take action, the industry to offer durable products, provide better information on the lifetime of the products, make repair easier and increase availability of spare parts, the consumers to translate their apparent dissatisfaction with the lifetime of their products into meaningful action, and from NGOs to monitor trends in product lifetimes and act in consumer education and information. Next one. So as I mentioned before, in this presentation I will focus only on in the policymakers, and I will now talk to you about some of the policies that could be put in place to allow product lifetime extension. Next one, please. Yeah, so policymakers should be aware that successive generations of electronic products are not always more efficient, more energy efficient, as I mentioned in the case of the TVs. Also that replaced products are not always taken out of circulation. So sometimes a person buys a new, more energy efficient fridge, but they keep the old one maybe in the garage, or they give it to someone else, and this product actually continues in the system. And thirdly, that the variation in use and use context across culture, it really impacts the lifetime of products. Next. So one, we cannot refrain from mentioning that in terms of legislation, France definitely takes the lead on this topic with the French Code for Consumption. But I think that I will not go into details, because I am sure that Silva is going to mention this in his presentation. So next slide. We have the EU right to repair legislation according to which from 2021 companies will have to make appliances longer lasting, and they will have to supply spare parts for machines for up to 10 years. And the rules apply to lighting, washing machines, dishwashers, and fridges. Next one. Also in the US, there are some states with active legislation on the topic, including California and other states. But now the consumers, they are starting to challenge those laws, those legislations, because they say that that these legislations, they are made for professional repair shops, and not for the consumers to repair themselves. So they say that they have the right to repair. So now consumers are pushing for legislations and business strategies that allow the consumer to repair the products themselves. This is a trend, especially in developed countries. Towards a more coherent product policy framework, these are examples of existing policy platforms that could be extended to include considerations to promote longer life for products. So, for example, zero waste legislations, waste of electrical and electronic equipment, eco-design, eco-labeling, consumer protection, consumer rights, and consumption laws. So these are examples of how you can tackle this problem in different pieces of legislation. Next one, please. So an example from the policy framework in the EU is the Eco-Design Directive that gradually removes from the market the least efficient products by setting standards that demand a certain level of performance and durability. And also the Energy Labeling Directive, that pulls consumers towards the best products by giving them an A to G ranking. So when you provide the information to the consumers, you allow the consumers to make more sustainable choices. The next one, or you can skip this one. Also, we cannot deny the power of soft policies, such as Type 1 eco-labels. Eco-labels products act as benchmark for designers and manufacturers. Eco-label criteria can create a push for the design and manufacturing phases of the product. When updating the criteria, the labels should take into consideration circular economy principles, such as warranties, repairability, availability of spare parts, recyclability of the materials and components, and possibilities for reuse and remanufacturing. And the next one. So, for example, the EU eco-label, they have criteria on repairability and durability for textiles, footwear, computers, notebooks, and tablets. Next one. So we did this when we were doing this work. We actually divided the main actions in actions by developed countries and developing countries, but you have to take into account that it varies a lot depending on national context. So this is actually not very precise. What we can see is that in developed countries, product lifetime extension is not a widespread practice, and rapid replacement cycles and reluctance to engage in maintenance and repair activities are present among consumers, and also, And in developing countries, we see that informal repair markets are usually more common, and although enforced legislation is often absent, product lifetime extension tends to occur more spontaneously in developing countries. So policy measures, policy perspectives are not a one or another situation. You need to take into consideration a whole range of policies and soft policies, and also actions from the different stakeholders and collaboration, as I mentioned. Also, different policy strategies can coexist, and mixed or hybrid policy toolbox is often more effective than just one policy. Next one. So different policy measures will tackle different causes of the problem. So the lack of transparency is one of the causes of shorter product lives. This can be, if consumers have better information, this is the assumption, they can make better buying and use decisions. The lack of incentives for companies to develop durable and reusable products is one of the causes of shorter product lifetime, and the assumption is that it's necessary to enable and empower manufacturers to extend the lifetime of products, whilst giving their customers a high quality product experience. And last, the lack of infrastructure, such as waste management and marginalization of informal sector. And the assumption is that the improvement of waste management infrastructure and recognition of the full potential of the informal sector can help extending product lifetime. Next one. So these are examples of policy measures that can be put in place to address the three challenges that I already mentioned. So, for example, the lack of transparency, regulation against planned obsolescence, such as the one that was put in place by France, legislation bringing the need for minimum durability criteria, product lifetime extension labeling, extended product warranty, mandatory extended product warranty, and the right to repair. They are all policy measures that can address the challenge of lack of transparency. As of the lack of incentives, Policies such as extended producer responsibility, removal of legal barriers for refurbishment and remanufacturing, and stimulating alternative business models can be examples of policy measures that should be put in place to address the lack of incentives. And the lack of infrastructure, the improvement of waste management infrastructure, the recognition of the full potential of the informal sector, and of course, consumers' education and information on how to handle the products and the possibilities to extend the product lifetime. The next? Yes, no, you can jump. Yes, please. Jump. You can jump until the one with, yes, this one. So those are success factors for enabling changes. So the consumers and non-governmental organizations and business taking action, the acceptance of alternative models, both consumers by consumers and industry, and monitoring and verification of enforcement measures. So this would entail policy effectiveness and implementation. Next. So with this, I finished my presentation. I just wanted to mention our knowledge products. So this is the long view report on exploring product lifetime extension. We also developed two infographics about business strategies to tackle this problem. And we developed case studies, and one of the case studies is from Refazenda, and the company that's going to present to us later on today. We also have these are the case studies. Yes, we have 6 case studies, and we developed also a video that is in our YouTube channel, the One Planet Network YouTube channel. And yes, you can find all the material at the Product Lifetime Extension Hub in the One Planet Network website, including the video. And the video we have in English with subtitles in Spanish and subtitles in Portuguese. Yeah, so with this, I finish my presentation, and I will be available to answer questions at the end. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Beatrice. Thank you very much for this presentation. So we will now hand over to Sylvain for the French perspective.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. So my name is Sylvain Chevassu. I work in the French Environment Ministry in the Sustainable Development Service. And I would like to thank very much UN Environment for inviting me to present today what we are doing in the French public policies for trying to extend the lifetime of products. I'm saying trying because it's not such easy, and it's the first steps. So next slide, please. As you can see in this policy background, the topic is quite recent in public policy in France. So back in 2014, we had a general law on consumption that included first measures on product lifetime extension. Then 1 year later, we had a law on energy transition and green growth that for the first time in French public policy included a chapter on the circular economy. Last year, we adopted our roadmap on the circular economy. And at the moment, through the parliament is going a draft law coming from the roadmap, draft law to combat waste and for the circular economy. You can find more information on the links there, including the roadmap on the circular economy in English. Next slide. So a bit more information about those steps that I presented in the policy background. As I said, in this consumption law in 2014, two measures in order to try to boost repair and in favor of more durable products. First of all, we introduced an obligation for manufacturers and retailers to inform the consumers about the period during which the spare parts are available. So it was a bit of a half measure. It was a compromise at the time. As you can see, it's not completely satisfactory because there was a sort of loophole in the sense that if you don't propose any spare parts, you don't fall under the information obligation. But it was a first step that allowed us to send a signal to the market. And in the current draft law, we want to improve this information on spare parts. More importantly, we strengthened the rights of the consumer in the context of the legal guarantee of the conformity of products by extending the burden of the proof is now on the manufacturer for the full 2 years instead of only 6 months before. That means that now during the full 2 years, the consumer doesn't have to prove that the defect doesn't come from him or her. And so that makes it easier for the consumer to use this guarantee. Next slide. So in the law on energy transition and green growth in 2015, we introduced an official definition of planned obsolescence. So this definition says that planned obsolescence is all techniques by which a producer seeks to deliberately limit product life in order to increase the replacement rate. And this definition also comes with financial sanctions if the practice of planned obsolescence is proven. It's a strong signal that was sent to the market. It's also a way to enable civil society, NGOs, to sue manufacturers if they suspect some practices of planned obsolescence. And as a matter of fact, we have in France at the moment 2 lawsuits for alleged planned obsolescence practices against one brand concerning printers and another brand concerning smartphones. It's ongoing. We don't have the results yet. The justice is quite slow, but it will be really interesting to see, obviously, the results and the effect of the law. And those lawsuits were launched by NGO. Another measure in this law is that now car repair shops must also propose second-hand spare parts as part of maintenance services. And that was quite a strong market signal as well, together with other factors such as the sharing economy, the internet. Consumers now, they are really trying to save on costs when they need to make a repair to their car. More and more consumers are looking for second-hand spare parts. Whereas not long ago, nobody would have thought about that. They would just, pay and take just the new spare parts that the car repair shops would propose automatically. And now we want to change that. It comes from policy, but it also comes from let's say a spontaneous change on the market and in consumer behavior with also the sharing economy. In the law in 2015, we also introduced the possibility to experiment a label providing to consumers information on the lifetime of the products. And the ministry organized this experiment 3 years ago. But to be completely honest, in fact, it was quite a failure. but it's okay because we can also learn from failures. In fact, we didn't have many. We have only very few candidates for this pilot, only 2. There was resistance from manufacturers against providing to consumers information on the lifetime of products in a statistical and absolute form, like numbers of years, because they say that the lifetime of product is more relative. It depends on several things, including the use phase, the behavior of the consumer, and they also fear that the lifetime in a number of years would be confused by the consumer with a guarantee. So as a result of this failure, we took a different approach, and we are working more now on the repairability information, and I will come back to that in the next slides. So yes, so our roadmap on the circular economy. Next slide, please. Next, yeah. So in the section on sustainable consumption, we have new measures on the extension of the lifetime of products. And the main one is this information I mentioned before on product repairability on consumer electronics. So the objective is to make mandatory information on consumer electronics on product repairability, and I will come back to that in the next slides. Another measure is, as I said, we want to improve the existing measure of 2014 on the availability of spare parts. So we want to improve the information to make it general, not only, so it won't be only on the duration of the availability of spare parts, but it will be about if spare parts are available or not. So if there are no spare parts, the manufacturers need to inform the consumer. It's a way of putting pressure on the manufacturer. And also we want to improve the delivery time for spare parts. At the moment it's 2 months. We want to reduce it to 20 days. And we want also generally to improve the availability of spare parts. Another measure is related to EPR schemes. In France, we have an eco-modulation system in the EPR schemes. That is to say that we can reduce or increase the EPR fee on the product in relation to eco-design criteria. And now, progressively, we are integrating eco-design criteria related to the circular economy, such as the integration, the use of recycled materials, and we want to also integrate criteria related to the lifetime of products. There is a new one, for instance, on the availability of spare parts, once again. So if you ensure that spare parts are available for 10 years, you get a bonus related to the fee within the EPR scheme. So next slide, please. Yes, so I'm coming back to the Repairability Index. So it's going to be mandatory starting in 2021 or 2022, depending on what's going to be in the law, because the law is in the parliament at the moment. So it's a repairability scoring system. It's a basket of indicators that will be transformed into one single indicator, probably on a scale of 1 to 10. And we have in waiting for the regulation to come into force. In the meantime, we started the technical development last year with the stakeholders, industry and NGOs to develop and test a generic index and also product-specific ones. And there are sub-working groups on washing machines, laptops, smartphones, lawn mowers and TVs. And we are also taking into account the works done in the same way at the European level. So the next slide, no, that was my last slide. I just wanted to conclude also by mentioning, and it's very important, that it's not only public policies, but there are many initiatives also arising on the market. So private initiatives, for instance, we have SEB. SEB is a manufacturer of home appliances, and they launched 2 years ago a logo on their products, a sort of label, 10 years repairable. There is Fnac Darty as well, which is a retailer in France. They very recently launched a new customer contract for durable products. So it's really good to see that the market is also there. I mean, there's still a lot to do, obviously, to change the dominant trend from of short-lived products and go towards more durable products. But we can see that there are many private initiatives as well, and let's hope that with our public policies, we also, and the signals that we send to the market, we also have are contributing to this positive evolution on the market. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sylvain. It was very interesting to get this insight into the French policy frameworks. And now I hand over to Marcos on the business case from Brazil.
Hello guys, hello everyone. Are you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, very nice. First of all, thank you for the invitation. As I said, I'm Marcos, one of the partners at Refazenda, and I'd like to share our idea, our purpose with you since 1989. The next, please. So to understand the Refazenda's purpose, we have to go back, but I promise very quickly, 30 years ago. This beautiful young lady is the founder of the company, and best of all, our mother. She is also social entrepreneur and fashion designer. And almost 30 years ago, she was a kind of dissatisfied. She was disappointed with fashion standard and its concern, its paradox. And then she decided to do something else. This was the beginning of Refazenda. She didn't want just to recycle, nor just upcycle, but rather as part of a whole and true circular process. Next, please. Also, she was lucky. I would say very lucky of being inspired by a mother who is a teacher of cutting and dressmaking, and a father, a tailor father. She was raised in this atmosphere, in this tailor shop, using the leftovers fabric to make clothes to her dolls. So you may imagine how her mindset, how our mother mindset would start differently than most people. This is a very important information about the Refazenda concept and its beginnings. Next, please. With this mindset, she took up the challenge of creating and keep continuously improving the Refazenda production system. Basically, we start by R&D, research and development, and then we move it to the crucial step, which is the cutting fabrics, where the leftovers basically appears. Then we rethink how to transform possible waste into new precious fabric parts. In other words, the rethink part is the key point of the Refazenda production system. And then we think how to transform this possible waste into new piece of fabrics. And basically after that, we have 3 new steps, 3 new paths: clothing details, accessories line, which is made with 100% upcycling techniques, and handmade raw material in partnership with cooperative associates. So next, please. After this process, we launch products as durable as possible with this package of attributes. I would say furthermore, these are our brand guideline. I will talk a little bit more afterwards. These features allowed us to storytelling to the different audiences, to the different clients. Next, please. No, please keep this. I'd like, in other words, we go from highlighted, high quality to timelessness, design desire, handmade with love. But I'd like to focus in our innovative service, which is called Realce. Realce comes from Gilberto Gil song. And in English, I would say enhancement. And Realce is the idea of recreating possibilities from garments that are already part of the client lifestyle, of the client life. Rethinking and, for example, co-creating Refazenda's dresses, skirts, shirts, trousers already worn. Could you please, next, please, could you go? And one more. This is Laura. Laura is a real client who brought this thought to us some years ago. And after these 15 years, this shirt doesn't over and become part of Laura's life. Because of thoughts like that, we had the insight of Realce. Could you go back one, please? And Realce works as a workshop, and we are trying this new service. This is our main innovative service. We have held 4 workshops till now, more than 19 customers, clients participating, more than 285 clothes realced, or in other words, enhanced, new possibilities created from clothes already worn, and at least 500 less fabrics in landfills. You may imagine how it matters. This is really, really matters. Next, please. And Laura also teases us by saying, have you guys an idea what about she was talking? She was talking about, oh, sorry. Could you go back one? Laura also teases us by saying, what about my little black dress? She was so satisfied with the Refazenda Realce that she would try with her black Chanel, for example. This is really, really a really high compliment to us. But we said, not now. Let us try a little bit more with Refazenda, and very soon, who knows, with another brand. Why not? Next, please. And next steps are basically to scale it up with passion, with technology and service. We believe in more service and less products in some years ahead. And also we have created our children line based on our third generation. Bento is my son, and Chico is my beloved nephew, and based on them, we launched the children line. And the idea is the same, is to start all over again from the very beginning. Next slide, please. And last, guys, but not least, we are not simply a fashion business, as I said, definitely not. We have a deep purpose. We rethink the process every single day, and we spread behavior through sustainable garments. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marcus. That was a very inspiring insight. I think we will now go over into the discussion. We don't actually have much time left, unfortunately, but maybe if you guys are available for a quick round of questions. So
Sure.
there was one question from...
I have took some notes, some insights during the presentation. If I have 1 or 2 minutes to say that after the questions, of course.
You can also
please.
start with us, yeah.
Okay. I think, in other words, we, Refazenda family, believe that we don't have to be radical. We need to be smart and take it one step at a time, of course. It's not it's not used being sustainable, being circular, as we are trying to discuss about, if it does not generate desire. We know that human beings moved by emotions and desire, so we have to find this balance, and this is not easy. This is a very long journey. Some points really matters, like cultural level, income level. People become keen on sustainable lifestyle because of basically 3 points in our view. Conviction level, this is more important, but this is more difficult. Convenience level, because of police incentives, tax incentives, and so on. And because of embarrassment level, so what they have been doing, they want to change the mindset and start to do something different. And basically, this is a good guideline to identify audience, sustainable or lifetime audience. I'm going to repeat: conviction, convenience, and embarrassment.
Okay, so yeah.
So that's it.
So you think the cultural norms and also the education of people is like a crucial aspect to support more like the lifetime extension of products, or the more sustainable use of products?
Yeah, definitely yes. At least in Brazil, I confess that I don't know deeply the reality of European reality or US reality, for example. But for example, our products come to retail at a relatively high price because of it. It's still more expensive to be sustainable than unsustainable. But you have to storytelling that why this product come out with this high level, because of our Refazenda industrial system. And it's not easy to storytelling that in the fashion markets. You may know we have to choose 1 or 2 attributes, 1 or 2 features to start storytelling, and mainly to split the audience for try to gain force.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think that's also one of the comments that Hector made, that maybe we need to include media and universities a bit more in like encouraging this transformation of values and a new type of consumer. But yeah, I agree that
and
it's
also
very difficult.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just to complete, I have is completely proportional. If we want to extend the lifetime of the products, we have to increase the level of desire, because desire is a great I mean, desire is a great fuel to push this movement, because we don't know yet if this is trendy or if this is a fad. We have to look forward in at least 5 years ahead and then to know if it will become.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think there were actually no further questions from the audience for now, so I think we can close the webinar here. Thank you everyone for joining today and listening to our webinar, and I hope it was very interesting and useful for all of you, and thanks again to all panelists for their contribution. We will also share the recording shortly on the One Planet webinar website.
Thank you very much, you.
And thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Have
you
a good
guys.
day.
Bye-bye.